Hey everybody, it's your girl Planet Tie on deck. I hope you guys are having a great day, afternoon, and or evening whenever you guys are seeing this. So check it out for today's lineup, True Crime. Are you ready? No, are you really ready? So this particular true crime story is called A Murder in the Park. I'm going to give you guys all the details that I've learned, and all I want you guys to do, sit back, relax, and light up the comments and let me know your thoughts. Have you guys ever heard of this? Let's get into it. Thank you guys so much for being back on deck, and without further ado, let's jump into this true crime. So Anthony Porter was born December the 14th, 1954, and he lived in Chicago, Illinois. In 1982, Anthony was convicted of murdering two teenagers on the south side of the city. Anthony was convicted and sentenced to death in 1983. It's reported that about 1 a.m. on August the 15th, 1982, two teenagers, Marilyn Green and her fiance Jerry Hillard, were shot and killed near a swimming pool in Washington Park on the south side of Chicago. Now, unfortunately, I was unable to locate any pictures of Marilyn Green and Jerry Hillard. My suspicion is the likelihood is because they were teenagers, and, at some point it was, that it was not allowed for minors to be shown in news reporting or TV clippings news reports and clippings and news, all kind of news, whether it be video, audio, or anything like that, without their parents' consent. So anyhow, I was unable to find any pictures of that. So Anthony was a 27-year-old alleged gang member, and he was identified by several witnesses as being involved with the crime or near the crime scene. So there's, what we have here is there's a park, and we have some teenagers in the park swimming. Now, a guy who's known to be, or allegedly known to be, a gang member is in the park at the same time that this crime takes place. Now, history will serve to show us that just because somebody is present when a crime is committed doesn't mean necessarily that they did it. However, it also don't mean that they won't be convicted for doing it. So let's get into this. A man by the name of William Taylor. Well, let's go back. A man by the name of William Taylor, who had been swimming in the pool at the same time of the shooting, initially said that he had not seen the shooting, but had seen Porter run past shortly after the shots. Now, just to be totally honest and transparent, if you yourself at home heard a shooting or you were around a shooting, and that wasn't, a shot usually is a, universal signal of get out of the way, be careful, be safe for most people, right? So if you heard a shot, would you not attempt to get away from it, or would you run towards where you heard the shot? Okay, just put that in the back of your head for later. So the man, William, he later said that he had seen Porter firing the shots. So initially, first he said he did not see the shooting. He just saw Porter running past when the shooting happened. And then he later said he saw Porter firing the shots. He was amongst 6 witnesses who identified Porter in the areas of the shooting, including one who said that he had been robbed by Porter at gunpoint a short time earlier in the park. Now, here's the thing. This is absolutely nuts to me. Okay, so Porter, by no stretch of the imagination, was I want to say maybe perhaps not necessarily the most law-abiding citizen or the most upstanding citizen who one would say, well, let's think twice before we assume somebody did this or that, right? Because if his character was speaking for himself based on the reports, his character is showing that earlier in the day he robbed a gentleman at gunpoint at the same park. Well, if that being the case, well, then you have a gun, you used it to rob someone, you're probably still holding that gun. Could the assumption be that perhaps Porter was attempting a second robbery when the incident happened? Let's go ahead and get into the case. Let's finish this thing. But I want you guys to light up the comments and weigh in. What do you guys think? Do you guys see that as probable cause as to why he would be a potential suspect in this? I don't know. Let's go. Police were given leads pointing towards other suspects, yet they appeared to pursue only Porter. So throughout the time that all this is happening, there's multiple witnesses, okay? And the witnesses are saying, well, we also saw another guy over there, and he was by the pool, and he looked suspicious, or that other guy grabbed somebody's stuff and ran, or that lady seemed to have had an extra interest in this or in that, right? So there was other people involved, but by the time it came to the police's attention and they got involved, all they said was, who, Porter, him? That guy? Okay, tell us everything you know about that guy. They said, okay, yeah, him too, but there was other people. And they said, nope, tell us everything you know about Porter, right? So upon hearing that he was under suspicion, Porter went to the police and turned himself in. He was immediately arrested and charged with 2 murders, 1 count of armed robbery, 1 count of unlawful restraint, and 2 counts of unlawful use of weapons. Let's think about this. If you were the person who had just committed 2 murders, if you knew that you committed an armed robbery earlier that day, plus 2 murders, all for some odd reason in the same park, what I can't seem to understand is, why in the world would you stay in that park after you already committed the robbery? And then in the same park later that day, you would commit 2 murders, and you would still, you were in that park for all of this going on and happening. So when it came down, if you knew, just thinking like for yourself as an individual, right? And we never know what we do in these cases, guys. We never know. All we can do is assume, make assumptions, and so forth, right? But I'm thinking from somewhat of a logical standpoint. Now, had I known that I was already, doing illegal things, and it's likely that I could be caught, there's no reason for me to stay around. And if I had committed some murders, there's definitely no chance at all that I would turn myself into the police at all. So basically, the way that the information is being presented that I've come across is that when Porter became aware that the police were looking for him, he went and knocked on the door. You guys looking for me? Here I am. Because in his mind, he was probably thinking at that time that, yes, I know I committed the robbery earlier, and that's probably what this is about, so I might as well turn myself in and get that over with. Now, I'm not so sure that he would have willingly turned himself in had he known that he was going to be immediately arrested and charged with 2 counts of murder. You guys light up the comments and let me know what you guys think about that. So after a short trial, Porter was convicted of the murders. Judge Robert L., I'm going to say S because I don't want to butcher his last name, sentenced Porter to death in 1983. An appeal to the Illinois Supreme Court was denied in February 1986, and an appeal to the United States Court was denied the following year. Porter continued to file appeals in the years that followed, delaying the execution. So because in his mind he was likely thinking, why am I being sentenced to death for what he actually did do, which was the robbery? So I'm being sentenced to death for a robbery? But they had told Porter they're charging him for the murder of the 2 people. Now, Porter said from the very beginning that he had no knowledge he said from the beginning that he was not the person who had actually killed the 2 teenagers. By the way, in case I did not say it, which I don't recall myself saying it, much respect and my condolence to the family of the then teenagers. They wouldn't be teenagers now, but my heart, thoughts, and prayers still go out to the family and friends who had to experience that unfortunate event. I'm very sorry for you all. But Porter, he said back then that no, he had nothing to do with that. Okay. So after, so he was convicted and sentenced to death. He did all these appeals, and the reason he was doing these appeals because he was still holding out hope that somebody would hear his story, that somebody would realize based on evidence that he didn't do it. So I've heard other cases where people have actually turned themselves in for crimes just because they were suspects and they knew that there was buzz around their names and they felt that law enforcement would come knocking at their door looking for them or having questions. So instead of hiding out, they figure I might as well turn myself in, because when they prove that I don't do it, when they prove that I did not do it, then I will be released. But there's 2 different laws in this country, okay? There's laws for a certain group of people, and then there's laws for others, okay? Now, I think that theory will work out perfectly depending on what scale you fall on. However, if you are a member of an underserved or underprivileged community, okay, if you are a minority in any way, then I don't think that law really works for you like that, you know. But let's get back into this story. So in 1995, Porter's defense counsel arranged testing of his client's mental capacity. He was found to have an IQ of 51, characterizing him as intellectually disabled. So his counsel filed a new appeal on the grounds that Porter was incapable of understanding his punishment by the death penalty. Now, what rings a bell to me is, does that defense make sense in any way? Well, let's go back to what he turned himself in for. If you had buzz on the street that you are likely a suspect in a double homicide that you did not commit, I don't know if the first thing that I would do would be to run and turn myself in. Now, he already knew that he was going to have to sit down for some time anyhow because he did a robbery earlier that day. But a robbery mixed with the possibility of a double homicide, I don't know, it's just from my opinion, I don't see myself ever turning myself in for something like that. Perhaps I would see if there was any way that I can retain some kind of counsel first to find out the truth, or to, you know, trying to get to the bottom of like what happened, because otherwise, yeah, the likelihood is you're going to be railroaded in one way or another. So I know, it's just my thoughts, but you guys weigh in and tell me yours. So in late 1998, 48 hours before he was scheduled to be executed, the court granted another stay after he had already served 17 years in prison. So after 17 years, and it's almost time for them to go ahead and play judge, jury, executioner, and Father God, he was granted another stay of execution. Okay, so all those appeals that he kept doing, they worked. Okay, they worked. So a guy by the name of David Protest, he was a professor and founder of the Northwestern University's Medal Innocence Project. A group of undergraduate journalist students executed a reinvestigation of Porter's case. They conducted a series of experiments to prove that Porter could not have been the killer. So you guys have heard of different innocence projects before. Basically, it's a group of students, usually college students, many different types of groups of students, okay? But they get together and they go through all the evidence that the police had, and they go through with the fine-tooth comb and just to look and to see if there was anything that was missing that was not already said as a part of the investigation, as a part of the defense. Okay, they go ahead and they see if there's anything outlandish that's standing out like a sore thumb that nobody's mentioned before, and they bring that to light. Okay, now what that can do is help out a lot of innocent people who are actually, you know, on death row fighting for their lives for crimes that they actually did not commit. Okay, statistics show that a great percentage of people of color in particularly, are on death row and fighting for their life for crimes that they never committed, but because the system said, got you now, they hold on to them, and they either serve life, okay, in prison, or such an enormous amount of their time that they don't even know who they are anymore, okay? And then other people are actually killed for things that they've never done, and they have been in the past, because a lot of people have abolished the death penalty. But anyhow, I digress a bit, okay? So the students claim to have found the real killer. And through their efforts, Anthony Porter was released from prison and became the face of the anti-death penalty. Now, you would think the story would end here, right? You would think, oh, happy ending. Congratulations, Anthony. You fought your case. You fought for your innocence. And now it's recognized that you're innocent. And they're done with this thing. And they're going to leave you alone. And you know what? All's going to be put to rest, right? But what happens next is like a repeat of what happened before. Let's get into this. Authorities now suspected another individual of committing the crime. A guy by the name of Alstory Simon, whose ex-wife had claimed she was with Simon when he committed the murders. That was their new suspect. Okay, now one would think that this would be an airtight case at this point. So Anthony Porter's now released. He's back home with his family, trying to rebuild and reestablish whatever part of his life that he now has left, and trying to reestablish an identity for himself, right? Now, while he's doing that, a gentleman by the name of Alstory Simon, the police hem him up okay? And when they hem him up, his own wife said, yeah, he committed the crimes, and when he did it, I was with them. I know he did it because we was together when it happened. Okay, says obvious John. Let's go pick them up then. Let's go get Alstory Simon, right? Okay, so members of the Mid-Hill Innocence Project, with the help of private investigator Paul, I can't pronounce his last name, so I'm going to say Paul C., came to Simon's apartment and told him the Chicago police were on their way to arrest him, and they showed Simon a video of someone later found out to be an actor, you guys, saying that they knew he committed the murders. So now that Anthony's released, they said, oh, we have this guy Simon. They go to Simon's house. Keep in mind, this is the people at the Innocence Project. They go to Simon's house, they knock at the door, and they say, hey, we have proof that you committed the murders. We have somebody confessing that they know it was you. They show him a video of another gentleman on the video saying, yeah, it was Simon, blah, blah, blah. Come to find out that the guy who was on that video, he was an actor. Now, one thing that I do not like about this at all to me, because I feel like it's very unscrupulous to do something like that. Like, I understand that you want to find, the intention is to find the person who did the crime, but manipulating and downright lying to someone and telling them that you have evidence that you do not have is also, it's disgusting, and I don't like that tactic at all. But I do understand that for different reasons, members of law enforcement at times will need to be a bit manipulative, and I think in different circumstances, on case-by-case circumstances, you know, when it comes to things like, well, anyways, I'm not going to go there. But anyways, so that's what happened to him. So members of the, came to Simon's house, found actor, allegedly through coercion, they produced a tape, meaning the Innocence Project, they produced a tape, I'm sorry, they didn't produce the tape, the police did. Allegedly through coercion, they produced a tape confession of Simon admitting to the murders. So now Simon's on tape, and he's saying, I committed the murders. I done it all. I killed them both. I did this, I did that, right? Now here's where it becomes really ridiculous. I don't know if you guys have ever watched any documentaries on how the police will hold people in an interrogation room for hours and hours and hours. 24 hours. They go out, get their coffee and this and that. They go get food. They use all kind of mentally draining tactics to the point where a person up under extreme pressure and frustration, at some point they'll admit to doing anything just to get the crap out of the way, to get out of that room, to get away from that investigator, to get away from the whatever kind of stress or harassment or verbal abuse that they're putting them up under. So you guys let up the comments and let me know, have you guys ever saw any cases like that or any documentaries about cases like that? Because I've watched a ton of them, okay? So I do understand that really intense interrogations can really wreak havoc on people mentally, emotionally, spiritually. It's very abusive. It can be very abusive, okay? Although in some cases I do understand why it's necessary. So after, Simon made this confession, okay, after he made this confession, he was convicted and he was sentenced to 37 and a half years in prison. His defense attorney, a person by the name of Jack Remlin, was a friend and colleague of Paul C., and he encouraged Simon to accept a plea deal despite his innocence. Simon later recanted his confession. Simon later came back and said, you know what, halt, time out. My defense attorney is friends. Make sure you guys are following the story, okay? My defense attorney is friends with the guy who's the owner, CEO, whoever he is, the main guy in charge over at the Innocence Project. They are friends, okay? The guy at the Innocence Project told my defense attorney to tell me, just confess. Just confess and accept whatever fate they give you. Because that's going to be the best thing that we can do for you. It sounds a bit hectic. One hand washing the other, one person out, one big fish out. Yay, we did a wonderful job. Even if you made a mistake, even if we made a mistake, we're not going to eat it. We're not going to own it. We did a wonderful job. Oh, well, you have to pay for it now. Now it's time for him to get out the seat and you get in it. You guys line up the comments and let me know if you guys heard of this story. Now, it was not until October 2013, and due in part to the investigation conducted for A Murder in the Park, which is a movie. It's a movie called A Murder in the Park, and it's also a documentary called A Murder in the Park, that the Cook County State's Attorney's Office reopened the case. So because there was a documentary called A Murder in the Park that is about the two teenagers who were killed in the park, okay, the Cook County's State Attorney's Office, they reopened the case only because of all the stuff that was presented in the documentary, okay? Now, Simon was freed in October 2014 after serving more than 15 years in prison. So we now have not one innocent guy who served all this time in prison. We have a second innocent guy who served all this time in prison, and neither guy actually committed the crime. Neither one of them actually did the crime, but both gentlemen served a substantial amount of time in prison. Now, the documentary addressed many questionable actions members of the Mid-Hill Innocence Project, including the possibility they neglected to interview eyewitnesses from the Anthony Porter's original case and instead relied on their own findings and experiments. So these students, while they were investigating the case, they were doing different experiments to see how plausible it was for this to happen or that to happen. Basically, they were going above and beyond to prove that Anthony Porter was not guilty. Now, I take my hat off to them, and I say big kudos to the Innocence Project because, without them, a lot of, even though, mistakes are made, you got to keep in mind there's always going to be human error because everybody's just human beings. So, without them, Anthony Porter still wouldn't be a free man, So, I salute them, and I take my hat off to them. I take my hat off to... Because regardless of how it turned out, I take my hat off to Possley as well because I feel like the intentions were good. Initially, anyhow, the intentions were good. Now, how they all ended up as a byproduct, that turns into something that's more questionable. I don't know that it all started that way is what I'm saying, but you guys let me know your thoughts and weigh in, okay? So anyways, like I said, and repeated, the documentary addresses many questionable actions by members of the Mid-Hill Innocence Project, including the possibility that they neglected to interview eyewitnesses from Anthony Porter's original case and instead relied on their own findings and experiments. Additionally, Simon's ex-wife later recanted her statement that she had been with Simon during the murders. So it's really interesting. I still have questions in these cases, okay? One, why did Simon's ex-wife ever say that she was with him during the murders? Question mark, was she mad at him? See, sometimes people have lovers quarrels type things and it gets out of hand and they decide that they're going to do anything to make this person pay because of one reason or another, up to and including buffoonery legal allegations that are just not true. So could that be the case with Simon's ex-wife? I don't know. I didn't find anything that supports that or even refutes it, so I really don't know, okay? But so Anthony Porter, rest in peace, he died. He just had a birthday. July the 5th, 2021 is when he passed away. Okay. So rest in peace to Anthony Porter. Simon, he filed a $40 million lawsuit against Northwest University, David Protest, and Paul C. in 2015. So he filed against all of them. Okay. In 2018, the case resulted in a confidential settlement. Paul C. sued various parties who appeared in the film claiming defamation of character. The suit was dismissed, but an appeal is pending. The state of Illinois abolished the death penalty in 2011. This following the conviction and subsequent release of Anthony Porter, an action that reignited debate in Illinois about capital punishment. So I'm not sure where you all stand on capital punishment, if you are here or for it, and if you decide to leave your comments if you would like to share your comments, please feel free to light up the comments, and I would love to see what you guys think about that. But that's all that I have for this case today. If I am missing anything, if there's other information that you guys would like added to these stories, aside of what I've put together, feel free to go ahead and light up the comments and let me know. And let me know what you guys think about this true crime. I'd love to know about all that. If you are new here, please make sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe. Tell everyone, your girls out here doing true crime and telling you guys about stories you might not know about, stories you may know about. I'm just giving you guys my perspective based on the information that I've obtained. So keep in mind, everything's not going to be 100% factual or to a science because I wasn't there. I'm not a party to the thing. I'm just researching the information and sharing with you what I have learned. So with that being said, thank you guys so much for joining me. Like I always say, there's always another story to be told. But for now, bye!